Asked for the check, and the waitress said, "No, ma'am, it's already been taken care of." And I said, "Who paid for our check?" I wasn't the mayor; I was on the school board. So who paid for the check? And the women, there's 5 women, and they looked at. They said, "We did. We hope you don't mind." And I said, "Oh well, thank you." And they looked at the young lady I was with, and they said, "You need to do exactly what she said. You walk in there and hold your head up high, and no matter where you come from, one, you're a powerful young lady. You got accepted to Harvard from the city of Santa Ana."
Yeah.
Never in my mind did I want to be in politics, or, I was a commissioner for a little while, but, that was a couple meetings a month. But never did I think about it. But because of my son and the way he was treated, that I was very concerned about the children in our city. And I know, because of my career, I know how many children are being incarcerated. At that time, they were. Now, of course, things have changed. The law has changed about incarcerating children and whatnot. And we're doing a lot more reentry work and diversion programs. But back then, it was, you're going to go to juvenile hall, you're going to go to juvenile hall. So um, I didn't think children belonged in there unless they committed a very heinous, violent crime.
It's amazing how something in your life just triggers you to try to make a positive change.
Well, I think as moms, and
Yes.
I was raised by my grandmother Linda, and she raised a lot of us. She had 10 children. My mom was the first of 10, and eighth grade education. And she used to say, and we were on welfare growing up. I would be embarrassed. I'd go to the market with her. I was a kid, we had her.
The typical kid is a typical
Yeah,
kid.
and so,
Yeah.
and then when I was able to drive, she said, "Come on, you had to take me to the store." I'm, all right, well, I'm gonna wait in the car. But, it's funny now. We laugh about it. She passed out, but my aunts and I, we laugh about it, but I know what powdered milk tastes like. I drink it every day, and government cheese makes the best sandwiches, right? The best grilled cheese. But I know that experience. So when people say, "Oh, you're this," or I've had somebody said to me one time, "Well, you're a princess. You come from a political family because of my father." And I said, I remind them, I've been working since I was 13 years old, and there's no princess here. What there is a hard working mom and a woman,
Yeah.
who is educated and has worked very hard to have everything.
Right.
Whether it's my own home, whether it's sending my kids to college or whatever it may be. My husband and I, we live in Morrison Park, which is I have a small little house, but it's ours, right?
Yeah, it's all you made it. You made your home.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I always encourage young girls, and, I mentor a lot of the young girls, and I have a girls conference every year. And basically I share with them, that no matter where you come from, rich, poor, middle class, single mom, single dad, parents that are incarcerated, we make our own choices in life. So that's kind of how I've done it. I'm not perfect, but
That's such a great inspiration for the new generation that are here in Santa Ana. I think that if they hear a little bit about your story, they'll get inspired. And I in life, to me, it's part of the most important thing, to inspire everybody out there. And not just, to say, "Oh, well, she had it easy.
Oh no, I did it.
Her dad is this, her dad is that." I mean, and it's not easy. People don't look at the things that you fight for.
Well, they don't know me. And those that do know
true.
me know, they know my life, right? So, I started with the probation department when I was 18. I was at UCI and I applied. And I started very young. I was one of the youngest officers they ever hired in the history of the department. And then I got promoted to probation officer at 20. And so I was already working gangs at 22, 23. And in the 80s and the 90s, the gang violence was off the charts.
Yep.
So that's when I was out there on the streets. And so, I was different. I was a little rough, and I had to be, right, to survive. And but it's a very honorable job, and I loved what I did. And I want to believe that we saved lives. And I always worked with a great team. Whether I worked Costa Mesa gangs, I worked the North County Target team, I worked in Anaheim for a little while. And so, I mean, I've I've worked all over, but my family has always kept me very grounded, coming from like my mom's side, very large, every Christmas when we do tamales and we do like 120 pounds of masa. So,
Oh my,
that's like a
yeah.
zillion tamales.
It's a tradition. You
Yes,
want to keep
my family
traditions.
has very strong traditions on both sides, but they didn't care what title I had, how much education. They don't. It's like, you're going to wash dishes. We don't care that you're the mayor. You're still going to
Yes.
wash dishes.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a running joke, you mix the masa, and we don't care that you're the mayor. We don't care that you're a school board member, or
That's
go put your
awesome.
gun away over there. We don't care. You're still the baby of the family.
Yeah.
Out of the 10, because my grandma always used to say I was her 11th child. But they don't know my story. They see my father, who's very successful, and thank God, he immigrated here, and his story is very powerful. He came here not speaking English.
Hmm.
My grandmother Margarita didn't speak English, but she knew that education was the key. And
Yes.
so she pushed my father and pushed my father, and his siblings. And, my father ended up becoming a lawyer and,
And
very
he's a
successful,
successful
very
guy.
successful.
Everybody knows him in
Yes.
Santa
And everybody knows him. And he was a trustee in the college. So they assume that, well, you must hand her everything. I'm not his only child. There's 9 of
Ana.
us.
Wow, that's a large family.
Yes, there's 9 of us. I think he's got now 15, 16 grandchildren, but I wasn't handed anything, and I worked for it.
Hmm.
So I do the same as the mayor. I work. I don't just show up and do photos. And yeah, we take pictures everywhere.
You're like a normal
I
person.
am a normal
And
person.
that's a lot of times people out there think, oh, well, no, they get paid the bucks. They do everything for them. She probably has a person that takes care of her. And it's not that easy. It's not like how people think that you are. And but you know what? I think you as a person, that's an amazing story. And things that we probably didn't know are the people that are watching us today. They probably hadn't heard your story before.
They may have, but I don't share everything, right? I think it's very personal sometimes, but, I can tell you that since I've been the mayor, it's never been a quiet time for me. Those that want you out of office, they make life very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm the only mayor at this time that I'm aware of that has received, multiple death threats. And, they've come to my home. Those are the bad part. That's the bad part of
Yes.
it, right? And so, my family's like they ask me, is it worth it? And I said, yeah, it is to me, because if I can change anything, just one thing in the city that makes life better, quality of life and public safety, it makes me feel safe, you feel safe, then I'm okay with it,
Right.
And in my career, I had a couple of threats, but nothing like I've had since the mayor. So it's not all beautiful. There are some times that, that are scary for my family and for me.
And
So
as women as well. I mean, we struggle already through all these feelings that we have as women as we're getting older and that kind of stuff. And not just that, I mean, and on top of it, dealing with this, I mean, there hasn't been a day that you sit down and you're like, why am I doing this?
oh, there's days.
Right? Because I
There's
mean,
days, when
but there's got to be something that keeps you going. And what I hear from your story, it's like it's the people. It's trying to make a change in the city for where you're serving.
well, honestly, what keeps me going is, number one, my faith.
That's always
Being the mayor, it's kind of, my grandmother would pull my hair if I said this in front of her, but, it's brought me closer to my faith. Because I really have to trust that God has a plan.
hmm
And so I had situations that were very difficult in my career that I walked into, and things that I could have got killed and, could have ended up hurt. I was in a car accident on duty that caused, lifelong chronic pain and whatnot, but I overcame it, right? I worked through it. I still live with it every day. But as the mayor, I was like, wow, people, if you don't believe, I think what's bad about today is if you don't believe the way they believe, they don't like you anymore. And I wasn't raised that way. I was raised that we can disagree, but we disagree agreeably, right?
Right.
And I don't look at people as like, well, you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, so I can't talk to you. I work with anybody who wants to make the city a better place.
Right.
And I feel it in my gut, right? If you come to me and say, oh yeah, you want to sell me this story? No, it just doesn't sit right.
Mhm.
But then you come to me and, whoever you may be, and I feel like, yeah, your heart's in the right place and I'll work with you. So I get a lot of pushback about that. And being a woman, I mean, there's times where I'm not invited to the table, um, but I invite myself
Right.
because they're talking about our city and they want to make decisions for our city. Even though it takes 4 votes on the council to make a change, you can be an active mayor and be very involved and really influence how things work in this city. I'm part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors now, and I also sit on a public safety committee with mayors all over the country, which we've never done before. I go to meetings and conferences where Santa Ana's never been at the table. I spend time in Sacramento, and I remind people that Santa Ana is the #1 city that has addressed housing and affordable housing. We've not only met, but we've exceeded by 2,400% affordable housing. Nowhere. And when I met with the Attorney General's office, they thought the city of Santa Ana was creating a loophole for housing. And then when they saw what we were doing, they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, Mayor, you are doing it the right way. We said, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And I asked them, is there any other place that does it better than Santa Ana? They said Switzerland. And I said, well, I guess we're going to take the trip to Switzerland. And, which we're not. But I mean, it was like, who's done a better job? So I think as a city, we can always improve on how we tell our story.
Right.
And I've been doing videos, not like this, a podcast, but just videos every couple of weeks now because, we had the Gaza and the Israel issue, which was really big, and it's awful, right? But they would say, Mayor, I can't change international politics. It's not my job. The current situation with immigration, it's awful. It affects people I love as well. But I have no control over what the federal government does. So there's things in the city of Santa Ana that we've done. So I think people that don't know, they think the mayor in the city of Santa Ana is like LA, right? Karen Bass is the mayor. It's a mayor-run city. City of Santa Ana is a city manager-run city. City manager works for us, the city attorney, and the city clerk. But there's always those 4 votes that you need.
In order to get something
in order to get it done. And there's other ways to get things done. And I have a great relationship with the city manager, the police chief. And if we disagree on things, you won't see it publicly. We handle things privately like adults.
Yeah.
So I think it's how people work. And as women, speaking of myself, again, coming from a large family has been very helpful. I have very thick skin. I've been through a lot.
For the type of job that you're doing, you have to. You can't just go sit in the back and say, oh my God, they call me this over here. They call me that over there. It's not like,
They call me everything.
I'm sure, but you have to be very thick.
I am. No, but you know what? I'm human too. I mean, I go home and, I feel bad for my husband sometimes because when you ask me if there's ever a day, yeah, I go home and when I close the door, that's my safe place. Right. And, you don't see my husband out in public a lot because he just prefers not to. He's not like me where he can stay quiet on some things because, he loves me and my children love me. So they stay out of the limelight. They stay out of events. But I go home and, sometimes he'll hug me and I'll just cry, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why people, are mean. And he'll look at me and he's like, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. You'll get through it. And so then put my boots back on and I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm good. But
wow, that's great that you have your family behind you.
I do.
And having that said from your husband
and my family.
I mean, that's such a
what people don't know is like in the audience, I usually have one of my cousins sitting out there and I'm looking at her or him and they're looking at me and nodding and smiling. And one day we were at a family party. So why do you guys show up randomly? One of you. Oh,
yeah.
They said, because Prima, you're never alone. We don't ever want you to think you're alone up there.
Yeah.
And, my son will text me before a council meeting or my daughter and say, you got this. Don't worry about it. If people are mean, just know that we love you. And that's really all that matters to me. If I can lay my head on my pillow at night and after I pray, I think, okay, dear God, I did the right thing today.
Yeah.
Then I'm okay. But I've also said things that are probably not the right time to say it. And because I can get angry too. And
we're human.
Right.
We're human. There's many times, I've messed up and I'm like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. I mean, I'm sure everybody does the same thing.
Oh yeah, I've said it. I've gone home and said it. And, but, it's being the mayor of this city is a very beautiful experience. And it really, people say, well, certain mayors, became very wealthy. Well, I don't know what that's like because I'm not transactional and I don't do things to make money. We get paid a certain amount of money. You get paid $1,200 a month. You get an allowance for a car. After taxes, it's like $300.
Mhm.
If you sit on a committee or, the water board, you get paid a little bit, but you know, it's not a lot of money. My husband added it up one day and he was like, okay, you get paid 2 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And we laughed about it.
But it's also all that time that you're putting into to
Yes.
make that change.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not just, sitting there and people thinking, oh, she's getting rich from this.
No,
And it's not even that way.
there's no rich in
It's
here.
not even that way. But
No.
now that I had this conversation with you, and thank you for sharing
Thank you for
all
inviting
your
me.
background and your history. To me, I connect with you in a lot of ways, for my background as well. And I see how, as a person, people outside, they look, oh, well, she's got it all easy, and they don't understand all the struggle that you went through, and all the tears and sweat and
Lots of
sleepless nights,
lots of them.
that you've dealt with in the past to get where you're at.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And a lot of people think, oh, well, she probably rose just like, like
No.
in no time, but it's not that way.
No, and you know what? I think I've never portrayed myself or acted like a victim because I'm not.
Mhm.
My mom was 14, my dad was 17 when, I think she turned 15 in September. I was born in February. But, my grandmother raised me. But I don't look at my parents like, oh my God, you didn't raise me.
Yeah.
I love my parents, um, family is family.
Yeah.
And
It's
I don't
blood.
ever act like a victim because it made me who I am today. Whether it's the scars or the good, the bad, the ugly, um, it is who I am.
It
And
gives you that experience in order for you to go out there and get what you need to get.
yes, and I have family that have, you know, gone to prison, have done this. I have family that are very successful. I have family from all walks of life. And, sometimes, people will comment like, oh, you don't understand about addiction. You don't have that experience. And I'm like, oh, I could talk about
Oh,
addiction.
I'm
What would
sure
you like
you
to
can.
talk about? I have family that I love that, maybe sitting in a prison cell that you don't know about. Oh, you're a single mom. I could talk about that too.
Yeah.
I was a single mom for a very long time. I mean, so that's why I say I don't ever impose that because it's my story, right? And
Right.
but I want people to know that, as the mayor, as the first woman, as the first Latina woman,
Mhm.
yeah, there's pressure. And it's not just in the political arena. There's pressure from family, friends, people I meet on the street. I go to the market, people come up to me. I'm on a cruise across the ocean and people come up to me.
Yeah.
I'm putting gas in my car, people come up to me. I'm in church and people come up to me. So you're never really off.
Yeah.
And I'm very humbled that my family accepts that. My son and I and his fiance, we were at church and then we go to brunch and, somebody's looking at me and my son was raised, in my world of law enforcement. He's like, Mom, 2 o'clock, somebody's looking. And I'm like, okay. And I kind of, and they smile and they nod. And he's like, oh, they know you're the mayor. I'm like, yeah, mijo, it's okay. You can smile.
Yeah.
Because he's very protective, he's a big man now. And he's very protective. And,
That's
or I talked to my daughter and she's like, oh yeah, somebody asked me, 'cause she owns a business. Somebody asked me if I was related to you. I said, yeah, she's my mom. She goes, because I never tell people that you're my mom.
yeah.
I said, yeah, it's probably best you don't. But, you know, it affects my whole family, not
It
just
does.
me. So we have a rule, we got to eat, phones are off. I turn my phone off and even my personal, and it's my family time. And Sundays, I don't work on Sundays unless I absolutely have to. Like Fiesta Patrias is coming
Yeah.
up, and on Sunday I'll work. But because that's my day to spend with my family and go to church or even stay in my pajamas all day and watch Netflix with my
And do
husband.
nothing.
Yes,
And nothing.
and
Just a
do
little retreat.
absolutely nothing.
Wow.
But I wouldn't be where I am today without my family, as I've indicated, my aunts and uncles who are like my brothers and sisters. And I have brothers and sisters, but I'm very close to them because I grew up with them. And, when times are bad and rough, they watch the council meetings and, they'll just text me and they're like, you know what, Mija? You just smile. You got this. We're here for you. And that's a lot. That says everything to me. And I don't want to run for assembly. I don't want to run for Congress. I love local politics because it's where you see the people, you're with the community,
Right.
you get to talk to them, you get to see the fruits of your labor.
And you know everybody around
I
here.
know a
You
lot of
know, like,
people.
yeah,
Yes,
this
yes.
is where you grew up.
Yes. And when I spend time at the senior centers, because I love the seniors, and they come up and, Valeria, and some of them knew my grandma. They're older, like my
Yeah.
grandma would be if she was still alive. And, they know my family, and, they'll say, oh, I've known you since you were little. They like to, some of them,
All
we've
right.
known her since she was a baby. I love meeting new people that'll say, oh yeah, I played soccer with your dad and you were 2 years old sitting there out there in the field. And I was like, oh my goodness, the
Yeah,
history,
yeah, you go
right?
way back over there. So
Yeah.
this is your heart. This is like the circle of the whole life that you've been
Yeah.
here. Wow.
And our city has challenges, but we're a beautiful city.
It does. And for a second I wanted to go towards those
Yes.
challenges, but I mean, hearing your story, to me, I think it's more important for people to know who Valerie is, and not, what has been portrayed out there, said,
There's
the
always
mayor
that
this,
loud
the mayor
voice.
that. I mean, you're gonna hear the loud part. No, somebody's not gonna like you,
That's right.
and somebody did like you, but that I want them to hear who you are and the
Thank
struggle
you.
that has gotten to for you to be here. Now, what would be something that you can tell our youth in the city of Santa Ana that would help them to actually get ahead and probably be able to look at some type of job or something within the city to inspire people? What would you say to them?
Well, first thing I'd say, no matter what your situation is, if you want something, you're going to work really hard for it. We don't give handouts in life. And, when people say, well, life's easy, that's a lie. Life is not easy and it's not fair. And, I used to tell my son that all the time, and he'd say, oh, it's just you. Oh, your job made you. We joke, right? Oh, your job. Or, now that you're an elected official, because I don't call myself a politician because I serve people, right? And so, oh, you believe that. Well, then when he started his career, he said, Mom, yeah, it is different for Latinos, for us Mexicans. Yeah, I get treated differently. And he's very light skinned. He's like, they say Melendres, and they're like, oh my God, oh, you're
Yeah.
Mexican? And he's like, yeah, I'm Mexican, because he grew up surfing and,
Yeah.
skiing and riding dirt bikes. And so I kept him away from that lifestyle that I grew up with, right? And so when he said that to me, I said, yeah, that's kind of sometimes what happens, but you keep moving ahead and pushing no matter what. And you show them that you can do the job. I would tell young people that you're always going to meet people that are mean and cruel, or that don't like you
Right.
because of the color of your skin or your accent, or because you say, oh, I'm from Santa Ana. Well, that might make you a bad person.
Mhm.
When I go places, they'll say, oh, you're the mayor of Santa Ana. And they kind of whisper it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I say very boldly, yes, I am the mayor of Santa Ana. And I'm proud to represent Santa Ana because we are a beautiful community. And we have, the API community, the Latino community, the Caucasian community. We have a Korean community.
Yeah.
We are such a mixed bag in our city, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of look and I said, what do you want to know about my city? So what I would tell young people, and even when I was on the school board, I'd say, you be proud of where you come from. Never forget where you come from.
Right.
Because that is who makes you who you are. I mentor some girls, and one of them got accepted to Harvard. And she said, we were at lunch, and she said, I don't think I can go, Val. I don't fit in. I'm not wealthy, and there's kids that go there that are wealthy, and I'm from Santa Ana, I'm poor, a single mom. And I said, time out. And there was a table of women sitting next to us, and I wasn't paying attention to them. I always look at my surroundings, right? And I said, Mija, it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You get in there and you show them that no matter where you come from, you can sit with the best of them and you can do just as well as they can. And if anything, you're better because you're hungrier.
Mm-hmm.
You're hungrier. You want to succeed and come back and serve your community if that's what you want to do. And so we kept talking and whatnot, and asked for the check. And the waitress said, no, ma'am, it's already been taken care of. And I said, who paid for our check?
Wow.
I wasn't the mayor. I was on the school board. So who paid for the check? And the women, there's 5 women, and they looked at, they said, we did. We hope you don't mind. And I said, oh, well, thank you. They said, "Oh, we heard you guys talking."
Yeah.
And there was an African American woman, a Caucasian woman, an Asian woman, and two. There was five, and I can't remember that two. And so they said, "We heard you guys talking," and they looked at the young lady I was with, and they said, "You need to do exactly what she said. You walk in there and hold your head up high,
Yeah.
and no matter where you come from, one, you're a powerful young lady. You got accepted to Harvard." From the city of Santa
Oh,
Ana.
yeah.
So those are the things that I tell young people, whether male or female. If you want something, you work hard for it. And yes, education is so critical. And whether it's a certificate program, whether it's a trades, it's college, because college is not for everybody,
Yeah.
right? We need the plumbers, we need the roofers, we need the pipe, we need all those things.
Yes,
I
we
know
do.
because
Yeah.
owning a home, right?
Yes.
A new roof is extremely expensive.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
we need those things too. So whatever your heart's desire is, you do it. But whatever you're going to do, you do with 110%. And don't ever believe when people say you're not worthy, because you are.
Yeah.
And I always use the phrase with young people, which they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I kind of tell them, I said, nobody puts baby in the corner. I said, it's from a movie. You guys don't have no idea what movie I'm talking about because you're so young. But I live by that. Nobody
Yeah.
puts baby in the corner. And I've walked into a room as the mayor and I'm disregarded because they don't know who I am. And then when I get introduced, all of a sudden,
Things
mostly
switch.
men, not to be disrespectful, and even some women,
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you're the mayor."
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
am. Yes.
Yeah.
So young people need to understand that nothing is given for free.
They need to work hard.
And stay off your cell phones 24 hours.
Mhm.
Look up because it's a beautiful world, and communicate because communication is key. Go to job interviews. You're not going to be on your phone. You're going to have to look up and engage. Sometimes I'm surprised, and I shouldn't be. Young people don't know how to shake hands or say hello.
Look at your eyes.
Right,
Those
because
are the
they're on their
things.
phones so much.
Yeah.
And I worry about like my grandchildren. What's it going to be like for them? My Troy's 5 years old. What is it going to be like when he's an adult, with AI and all these things coming in the world? I always say, don't lose touch with the person, the communication, the eye contact, the just the like, I notice you, I see you.
Right.
And work hard. Work hard because it pays off at the end.
It does.
And I always say, when you're my age, you're going to be able to sit back and say, it paid off.
And I did something in life. I was
Yes.
able to do
Yes.
something.
Now
And that you were mentioning that, the eye contact,
Mhm.
they're sitting and they're shaking of the hand. The other day I heard something that really caught my attention. Nowadays, some kids are like bringing their parents into their job interview.
That's correct.
And I'm like, wait a minute, my parents never held my hand to go, apply for that cashier job when I started back in the 90s. You
Yeah.
have to go on your own. You
Yeah.
have to be able to win the person over
Yeah.
and look in their eyes and say, hey, this is for me.
Yeah. My nephew and two of my nephews and my niece lived with me for a little while. And he said, "Oh, Thea, I have a job interview. Are you going with me?" I said, "No, I'm going to sit in the car." And I walked him through. A friend of mine, my girlfriend and I, we walked him through. This is what you say. This is how you do it. And my husband's like, make sure you shake their hand, look them in the eye. We kind of gave him the whole 411. And so after the interview, he came out and he's like, I'm sweaty. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do and blah, blah, blah. And he got the job. And, he started 4 days later. And I said, Mijo, you can't. It's not about your Game Boy, PlayStation, or,
Yeah.
your Oculus and your phone. You actually have to talk to people. It's
Not text
scary.
them.
Not text them. Yeah.
Nowadays,
Everybody
most
wants to
kids,
text.
oh, I feel better texting and than or either even FaceTiming. Kind of stuff.
One time my son was in his room when he still lived at home. He probably was 19 years old. And he texted me, and I was in the kitchen or the living room or what I was doing. He said, Mom, can you make me something to eat? He texted me from his room. And so I went and I knocked on his door and I opened the door and I said, we don't do that. Mommy, really? I know, but I was on the computer and I just didn't want to do it. And I said, don't do that. And I just laughed at her. I said, don't do that. You're going to come and talk to me. You want to eat? Matter of fact, come in and get something to eat. I'm not going to bring it to you.
It's our new generation,
Yes.
how things have been changing. And I see it all the time. And I mean, even myself personally, I hear parents telling us, hey, that was the way that I raised you is not the same that you're raising your kids. I remember,
Yeah.
when I was little, my mom would just like give me that
You just had to
stare
get the
on.
look.
Exactly. And I knew I needed to get up and do
Yeah, that's
whatever
right.
I needed to do.
They say, we didn't snap our teeth. We didn't talk
Oh
unless
my
when
God.
adults
Yeah.
were talking.
Right.
When we'd go to church, my grandmother would look at us like, don't be misbehaving in church. And, it was just so different. We
It
played
was.
outside until streetlights came on,
Yeah.
drank out of the water hose,
Exactly
you
what
know.
we go through with our kids. I mean, I have two teenagers and the same thing. Oh, mom, the jappity jab talking back and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, if it was my mom, back in the day, she just gave me like, hey.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because, some people will say, well, I was raised with a lot of trauma. I got spanked or I was disciplined. And, I always joke about the chancla, right?
Yeah.
My grandma had a chancla. I had a chancla,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
my kids will say, yeah, my mom was strict. My dad was, my ex-husband, my dad was the fun one. My mom was the strict one. There's always that in the marriage or in relationship. And so, I'm like, yeah, because it's about respect. And my grandmother raised us a certain way. Um, and that's what it should be about, and sometimes again, it makes me very nervous to think what's it going to be like in the next generation when we say, well, discipline is very traumatic for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, discipline is actually very good for you. That's why the military does it, law enforcement does it. We're trained that way, because I remember being a young officer, being on the range, practicing to use my firearm, and they're screaming at us, and there were voices that sounded very loud, and and you're on the line, and you're nervous as it is, and but I was able to be there because I was like, okay, my grandmother used, if my grandmother raised her voice, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And you'd hide, like, oh my God, I gotta go hide.
Or they call you by both names.
Your full
first
name.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so my daughter, my son, I says, we always knew we were in really big trouble when mom would say, blah, 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 use our full name. I was like, oh yeah, that's when you had to run or hide,
I
right?
heard it all the time. And I hear you. So all Gen
But
Xers,
yeah,
the same thing.
but
We
kids
were brought up.
nowadays, I want to hope and pray that, we don't forget that discipline's important
Yes.
and respect is important, and giving them the skills that they need to survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because of the economy, our children live with us longer. Adult children live with their parents, and I'm okay with that if that's what ends up happening. But you still have to teach them to be responsible and pay bills, and learn how to budget, because it's important.
Yeah.
As the mayor looking at the city's budget, or when I was on the school district, the school district's budget was over $1 billion. And when I first looked at it the first time, I was like, wow, what do I do? Right. But I had a great mentor on the school board. There was another board member. He's good. Turns out he's a very good friend of mine now. And he mentored me, and he taught me how to understand the budget and how money moves. And I call it playing chess. Right. And so when I got elected as the mayor, I was like, okay, I got the budget smaller, but but it's with our children. We have to teach them those skills.
And I see that schools are coming in and starting to teach some of those things that I don't remember in high school getting taught. Mm-hmm. But still, it's all done at home. If mom and dad don't take care of those things, then the kid goes.
And in our world, it's not even just mom and dad. It's you may be raised by your Nina.
Yeah.
Your grandmother, your siblings. We have families that their parents are not in the home. And so whoever is raising you, I started at 13 with got my first job with the JTPA program here in Santa Ana, for kids that, they were called the poor kids, right? So they gave us a job. I don't even know how I applied or who took me. I don't even recall, but I just remember like, oh, I have to work to help my family. My parents were always in my life, somehow, some way, but it was just, there was so many people in my home, that we all worked. And
you start early. And you start early.
Yeah,
here.
But it starts at home. My grandmother used to say, son pobres, pero no son sucios, and she would always tell us, you be respectful. They think because we're poor that, we're this and we're that. And I remember her taking the bus to the school district, and we would go with her if there was a problem, and she would challenge them. I look back and I'm like, I'm so proud of her, and so I have both of these amazing grandmothers that were peleoneras. They were both single moms. They, had very little education, but they raised their kids and the grandchildren that they raised to be fierce warriors.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
um, that's what I look at. And yeah, there's days I do go home and I cry and I hide and I want to be left alone. But most of the days I put my boots on, my feet hit the ground, and I thank God that I woke up
Yeah.
and that He gave me another day. But I always say, what's today's challenge? And people have come to the council meetings and talk about my hair. They talk about my body image. They talk about everything except for the issue. And
Yeah.
and then they look at me and say, "Oh, you look so disinterested." And it's not that I look disinterested. It's just I know how to put on a layer of cover, right? I
Mhm.
know how to, in my mind, say, "Okay, dear God, we're covered." And my family's texting me saying, "We got you.
Yeah.
We got you. At the end of the day, you come home to us."
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. Or my husband texts me and says, "Babe, don't even listen. You're beautiful and I love you." And
And
that's
that's
it.
what a lot of people like out there, they'll look at the not at yourself as a person, as where how you got there, what you fought to get there, but they just try to put you down, and that's not right.
But that's what they learned, right? And how to address an
That's how
issue.
they brought up.
And I think it's fear, and especially when the immigration issue came about, fear, lots of fear. And I was afraid too, and I still am. I wish I could snap my fingers and make, things
Changes.
things different.
Mhm.
I don't have that ability, but I have a lot of faith that I know when things happen, Santa Ana comes together. Um, and somebody asked me one day, why weren't you, and not to go down that road, but why weren't you at the protest, Mayor? And they asked me in a very nice way. And I said, because I believe going to the table and having discussions with Republicans, Democrats, and how can we fix this?
Mhm.
And if other people want to protest, by all means, go ahead. Just please don't destroy our city, because don't give them an excuse to say, see, that's why
Yeah.
we treat them that way. I wasn't raised like that. I was not at all. But we joined the lawsuit with Los Angeles. I went up there, represented Santa Ana. I spoke, said, we're here, and
Yeah.
what you're doing is wrong, and we're part of this lawsuit now. We're going to hold you accountable. And whatever people believe, right? Because you're looking second, third, fourth generation now that are saying, well, I'm okay with this happening. And others say, no, I'm not okay. So when people are afraid, as um, they don't, they don't know how to react sometimes,
Right.
and they got to blame somebody. So who do we
Oh yeah.
blame? We blame the mayor, because she's the mayor of the
Yeah.
city.
She's the one that
Um,
makes. Yeah.
so
Doesn't work that way.
I take it, and social media is a very powerful thing, but yes, it's also a very negative thing, right?
Mhm.
I don't read it. I'll post, or somebody will post for me, and then I get off of it, because I don't expect everybody to like me.
No, and that would only feed you like negativity most of the time.
Well, if everybody's a yes person, then I'm not doing my job. Um, I used to tell my staff that if everybody loves you, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Um, because we are going to disagree on things, whether it's parking, or whether it's housing, whether it's immigration, whether it's our police officers. When you interview the chief, you can ask him how many calls for services the city have. I mean, they're just through the roof, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
the homeless, and then I have my own personal family, stuff going on. And what do you address first? And so for me, my family comes first.
Yeah.
I'm the mayor, but my family comes before anybody else. And maybe that's wrong to say, but I believe that and I feel that. And this is temporary.
Yeah.
I think people forget that being in office, for at least I can say for me, it doesn't define who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
No.
It's just a little piece of me. I'm defined by my family, who I was raised by, my parents, my children, my husband, my girlfriends, my village of women, who mentor me and help me. And my village of men that help me and mentor me. And so I am defined by so many other things than just being the mayor.
I love the way this conversation went because honestly, and I told you at the beginning of the conversation, we were going to aim it somewhere else, but I think we went to the best and hearing about who Valerie is and what you bring to the table as a person. Not as the mayor, not as the board member, but you as a person and how you were raised. And that's such an amazing story.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate you coming over.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I hope you come back. I really hope you come
We'll
back.
talk about city issues.
And then we'll talk about city issues and let the people know, all the resources that they can have out there.
There's a lot of them.
But honestly, I mean, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you. I appreciate
and taking the time to sit here with us and having this great conversation. And we need to continue this.
Let's do it anytime.
We need to continue this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, El Aviso community. We had such a great person visiting us today.
Thank you.
And I want you to stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And we'll see you at the next conversation. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Appreciate it.